I think the game of telephone is exactly right. I think that we can't hope that we're going to perfectly sort of translate from one side to the other. So we've tried to focus much more on what does that contract look like? What should we be coming away from, at this particular stage? And I think one of the things, for instance, that's most critical for us is, when you're out there and you're talking to customers and someone is asking for a particular feature, you've made two problems there, right? Because when you're talking to customers, very rarely should they be like, this is the specific feature, I want. You should be trying to direct them much more. Here are the problems that I have. Here's what I wish I could do, which is actually really importantly different from, this is the specific feature that I want. And then also, it's about when you pass something along internally, again, you should never really have your executive team say like, this is the feature that we want to build. I mean, maybe when you're 5 people, like that's appropriate, right? But even at like 10, 20 people, right? That's not really appropriate. We're like 80 folks now. So it's like very, very much not appropriate, right? So instead, it's much more about the executive team saying, okay, here's where the competitors are at, right? Here's what we should be comparing ourselves against to. Here's the success metrics, right? And here's how we're going to measure this. And here's, the feedback that we've been getting. And that really becomes much more the bundle, right? So the goal is based on what we're hearing from customers. What would we be hearing from customers instead, in this success criteria, right? And having that framing instead of, again, trying to kind of like whack-a-mole on features is, much more productive, I think.
Yeah. This kind of goes into your writing world building aspects of your mind, because I think especially if you're a fan of Brandon Sanderson, I think I've heard him say this where if someone says what is wrong, listen to them. But if they say how to fix it, don't listen to them, because they'll give you a sense of like, hey, there's something going on here, but like usually they're not the people to figure it out.
Yeah, actually, I think he gives this exact feedback for writing critique, and it's amazingly helpful, right? Because, and that's something I do. I write fiction. I've got a writing group, and so we give each other critique. And one of the things that's really hard is figuring out, how do you critique someone else's writing? Especially something like fiction, it's very, very personal. And how do you kind of separate your personal opinions from kind of whatever? And that's really the key, right? Is your experience can never be wrong, right? You might not know how to fix it. You might not know, what they should change, right? You might not even know if the experience you're having is intentional or not, right? Someone might be like, wow, I felt like really disoriented reading this page. And maybe that's good, maybe that's bad, right? You could take the next step about like, oh, I was disoriented. You should add like XYZ details, right? But maybe I'll just like, actually, you should be disoriented on that page. That's exactly how I want you to feel, right? And I think that's the real difference, right? Is like you set kind of the goal and the experience and find that delta, right? As opposed to being really prescriptive about what a solution looks like.